You thought you'd seen it all at Derby, but Boro managed to once again beat themselves with ridiculous self-sabotage and then dominate a game and struggle to score. New week, same old Boro. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Project Boro. Today we are talking, we're talking about Derby Boro again. Just point two, Boro, Pompey, exactly the same as what we had last week. Boro playing a side who they absolutely dominated, they absolutely battered, shot-wise, possession-wise, but once again, same old story. Boro beat themselves via some really poor defending for the first goal and a comical individual error for the second, before having a repeat of the Derby game basically for 45 minutes, albeit this time we got a point from it. This is still a game we come away from incredibly frustrated, with Boro once again showing the same old bad habits that we did last season at the start and at the start of this season in games where we really should be winning and we're not. And I'm going to just throw some stats at you guys, and I'll probably try and create graphics, and I'll put the shot map on the screen for anyone listening or watching on YouTube. Of course, as I say, if you want to listen to this on the go, you can go and check this out on your chosen podcast provider. So if you want to listen to this video on Spotify and all future Project Boro shows on your Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, link is in the description. So, in Boro's first 3 games this season, we've had 67 shots compared to the opposition's 15. We've had 15 shots on target compared to the opposition's 5. We've created an XG of 7.4 and only scored 3. And we've only conceded an XG of 2.55 and we've still conceded 3. The concern is that Boro have had 67 shots and the only 3 goals we've mustered was one from a corner, which was Clark's equaliser today. The other 2 were penalties. The 3 goals we've conceded, on the other hand, one was a poor goal defensively from Boro within the first 2 minutes today. The second was between, once again, a bit like Zai Jones's terrible error last week against Derby. This was, once again, Boro shooting themselves in the foot with Senny Dieng and Mark Clark both going for the same ball, both missing the ball and allowing Sadie an empty net. So, how the hell do you approach this? Because me and like everyone else in Boro fandom, we are incredibly frustrated with Boro's inability to turn their dominance into goals and goals into wins, but then equally not give the opposition anything really in terms of clear-cut opportunities. Everything we're conceding at the moment is coming from our own doing. You know, Swansea on the opening day, we didn't give them any big chances. The only half chances they had came from our errors. We all know what happened at Derby with Zai Jones's back pass and the fact that Derby just defended for the entire game after that. And then again today, we gifted Pompey an opener 2 minutes in, and then the second was something you'd see on Comedy Central. So the stats, not only for this game, which have Boro at 70% possession, an XG of almost 3 to Portsmouth's 1, and 29 shots we had in this game. 29! And obviously, as I said, you'll see the Portsmouth shot map. The numbers are incredibly promising. And I'm in a weird place because I guess the short-term reactionary thing that most football fans adopt when they obviously react to a game and they're very emotional is that we are making life so much harder for ourselves, and we're basically throwing points away. We're setting fire to points we should have, and we're putting them down the drain. And really, we should have 9 points from 9 based off of how the games have gone and the shots Boro have created. We are right at the top of the championship for the most shots created, but we're also in the bottom 3 for shots converted. So it's obvious where we need to improve, but I would much rather at the same time watch a team that's creating a lot of chances and looks incredibly good going forward. We look really good in possession, and we look good defensively, barring split-second moments of madness. Other than that, teams haven't been able to create anything against us. We've not been carved open once. We've not been ripped apart once. Everything we've given the opposition has came from us. We've beaten ourselves. So if the numbers and the data was to even out, we've got an extremely good team here in terms of how many shots we're creating, how many chances we're carving open, how easily we're playing through the thirds, how well we're playing through the thirds. Today we played the ball through the pitch so well, and we got into so many incredible areas. But in them final moments, the decision and the final balls were just not good enough. We were shooting when we should have been passing when we should have been shooting, taking one extra touch when we should have been taking a shot at goal. There are split moments where Boro, if they were just a little bit better in the final third, we could have blown Portsmouth away. In the same manner, we should have blown Derby away. But the bottom line is, we haven't. And that's the frustrating thing. So if these numbers even out as the season goes on, Boro will score an absolute ton of goals. And the normal sort of narrative around Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough always has been, well, we're great going forward, but we're not good defensively. We're not very good at all. But really, if you look at it, back end of last season, we got really good defensively. We really improved when we had that run towards the end of the season, which was winning was it 11 out of 12? We were unbeaten. And we've started this season well defensively as well, but we've somehow managed to concede 3 goals from nothing. So if this was to, if these numbers were to continue and Boro to keep doing what they were doing for 46 games of the season, I still am extremely confident that we will score a lot and we won't concede many, and that usually means wins and points, and I'm still extremely confident for being up there at the end of the season, because essentially the numbers prove it. But naturally, I also understand that there is a little bit of, a lot of frustration based off of this game in isolation, and rightfully so. It was an incredibly frustrating afternoon, and had Conway not put away that penalty in the 90th minute, it would have been another hellish afternoon. So at least we've took something away from this game, because it's the least we deserved. But I think there's also a lot of anxiety because of last season and how we started that, and that history could repeat itself. And essentially, the start of last season is what cost us, and I think there's a lot of anxiety and deja vu that the same might happen again. But if you compare us to last season, this time last year, we'd just come off the back of a 1-1 draw against Huddersfield. We just scored our first goal in Game 3 after losing our opening 2 without scoring and conceding 4 at that point. And after our third game, this time last season, we still went winless in our next 4, losing 3 of them. So we were in a much worse position last season. I still believe we've got such a better team with so many great players. We're doing so many great things, but we're just being punished with moments of absolute madness. So I'm kind of, incredibly frustrated in isolation with this game. But I think overall, if you take a step back, this team are doing so many really, really good things and a lot of great things. And I'm hoping, naturally, we'll get what we deserve from all of these games. So we'll see. But unfortunately, that's wishful thinking, that's hopeful thinking, that's, I guess, assuming possibly on what should happen, what hopefully will come of the season going forward if this continues. But as for the game as a whole, Boro conceded instantly within 2 minutes. It basically consisted of Lucas Engel overcommitting on the left-hand side, losing out, getting nowhere near a challenge. Portsmouth cutting the ball back from the right-hand side, really bad defensively, loads of space for Sadie to come in off the left and get a shot at goal. It was a good finish to an extent, but I think even then Seny Dieng could have done more. It was sort of straight at him, so that was an avoidable goal and a terrible start. But Boro reacted really well to going behind, because I was worried that it was Derby all over again, and I predicted that it could happen, that Portsmouth just put 10 men behind the ball like Derby and defended. But I will credit Pompey. They didn't do that. They didn't come up here to defend and sit back and protect. John Mousinho had a side here that were pressing really well, and when they had the ball, they looked really good. They looked really neat and tidy, and they caused us a ton of issues first half. And I honestly looked at Portsmouth, and I looked at how brave they were being, and I thought, they'll be all right. They'll be absolutely fine this season. They caused us a few problems in that first half, but on the other hand, Boro reacted really well, and we equalised 9 minutes later through Matt Clark. We scored from a header. We scored from a corner, which is a rarity in itself. Things are all over the shop and crazy when Boro score from a corner, but it was a cross from Finazars, a good header right into the corner. It snuck in to that far post, and it got Boro level. And you think at that point, okay, we've had a bad start. Once again, we've gifted the lead to the opposition, but we're level. We start again. Let's just crack on and put that first 11 minutes behind us. And we still manage to still, Charity FC, hand the opposition the lead and the foothold once again on the 25th minute with a moment of madness that I simply cannot explain. You know, it sums up Boro at the moment, really, and it comes from two of our most reliable players, you know, in a back four that's been incredibly solid, and probably our best player of the season so far in Matt Clark, and it's just a bit of miscommunication. The ball comes forward. Senny shouldn't be that far out, in my opinion. I don't know why he's coming out that quick, but he, I guess, took ownership of that situation. He would have headed that ball out. Maybe should have given Clark a shout, because Clark was coming across and was on the assumption that Senny probably wasn't as close as he was, and Clark basically gets in Senny's way. They floor each other, and Sadie has a tap in. And you just think to yourself, how on earth have we done this twice in 2 games in the space of a goddamn week? It's honestly, I couldn't believe what I saw in that moment. It was comical. It was really poor from Boro. And you just head in your hands thinking, why have we gifted after getting back in the game and reacting so well? Why then gift the lead back to the opposition? And at this point, Portsmouth had not done anything of note offensively other than these 2 moments. They'd had 2 really good moments, now a final third. Both come from Boro being bad at the back, and they converted both. So you're thinking to yourself, this is just ridiculous. It's Derby point 2. And it kind of was that. You know, for the rest of the first half, albeit the first half wasn't really all that good from Boro, it was a very chaotic game. Portsmouth were making it really, really difficult with how they were pressing us, how they were winning the ball back, you know, just putting us under really, really good pressure and defending really well. However, the second half was very much like the Derby game. You know, Portsmouth sat back a bit more, couldn't really get a grip of the game. Boro did well to stop the game being as basketball-like and as chaotic and back and forth, and we really got a grip of the game. And it was, like Derby, attack versus defence. Wave after wave after wave. And on FootMob, as you can see on the screen, the momentum Boro had was relentless from, well, the first half too, but second half it was endless. But like Derby, it was just not dropping for us. And unlike Derby, in a positive, I think we were a lot sharper around the box. We were a lot more incisive around the box, a lot more aggressive. But still, the final ball wasn't good enough. We had crosses flying in every other minute, right across the face of goal, blocks, shots, saves from the goalkeeper. Like last week, I'm just going to stick some of the highlights in the video because there's too many to note. Hackney had one saved, Lath had an overhead kick tipped over the bar, corners coming in. It was just unbelievable. And as I say, Boro had 29 goddamn shots in that game. The shot map was an absolute joke. But like Derby, it just wouldn't go in. I couldn't believe I was seeing the same sort of game, and I was preparing myself for another unbelievably frustrating day and another week where I was just in an absolute stinker because Boro had somehow lost. But thankfully, we rescued a point at the death via a penalty spot, and it was Tommy Conway, Boro's new man, who is ever reliable from the spot as he was at Bristol City, stepped up in front of his new home fans in the 90th minute, and to be fair to him, took the penalty very, very well. And it got us level, and yet there's a sigh of relief that we got something from the game, but still there is an unbelievable amount of frustration that it really, really should have been more. Boro absolutely peppered Portsmouth's box in that game, but a bit like last week, you know, for all of the shots that Boro had, the overall XG and quality of chances that we created still weren't quite good enough. You know, last week against Derby, we had a total of 20 shots, but only 4 on target. We mustered an XG of 1.5. So a lot of pop shots, really, from range. A lot of, you know, hopeful efforts, you could say. And then again today, 29 shots, but was it only 7 on target? So, you know, again, a vast majority of them shots nowhere near the goal. You look at the shot map, still a lot in the box, but a lot that were, you know, from quite some distance. So, yeah, it's a frustrating one for Boro once again, and there are numerous ways of looking at it. In isolation, absolutely, a very, very frustrating day at the office. And again, you look back to last season, and the number of points we dropped at home to teams we should be beating, it does ring the same alarm bells that we had this time last year. And naturally, I understand completely the anxiety around Boro fans that the same is happening again. And absolutely, that's something that needs to be ironed out quickly. However, this Boro side are dominating games. We are battering opposition. And I just think the law of averages would mean that eventually, if we keep doing what we're doing, the shots will go in. The players will get better chemistry. We'll get on each other's wavelengths a bit more. They'll understand each other a bit more. When balls are getting cut across the box, the forwards will have a better idea on where it will be. And I think naturally the goals will start going in. And defensively, I can't blame the defence all that much. A moment of madness from Clark and Dieng. Isaiah Jones with a back pass from hell. Other than that, in terms of open play, we're not giving the opposition a thing. So we're doing everything right. And you can't blame Carrick for these individual errors. You can only blame the individuals in them moments. And you can only wish that they'll learn from these errors and they'll just stay a little bit more focused. The communication will improve. And if we iron them out, there's no reason why we won't start really, really putting games away. So, yeah, I'm not going to overreact at all to this. 3 games in, as I say, this time last season we were in a much worse position, and the signs are good. It's just the results aren't at the moment. Hopefully they will come good. But yeah, as for Boro today, frustration, yes, but if you take a step back, look at the bigger picture, what we're doing is good, and I just hope it comes off. We're not going to look at the league table because, of course, it's still a bit early to do that. I think we're 9th at the moment, but looking at the 11 and running through a few of the individuals, of course, Senny, as is the case quite often, didn't have many saves to make, if any, to be honest, but of course played a huge part in that clanger that gifted Pompey a second goal. The back 4, for the most part, were decent, although FootMob have got Dijksteel and Ayling the wrong way around. I think Clark, barring his error, was once again tremendous. Matt Clark has been our best player this season, and defensively again, he was unreal. Of course, Ayling had to come in today as right centre-back in place of Rav, who is injured, which meant Dijksteel come in. I thought Dijksteel did really well, again, on the right-hand side. I think you can still see the confidence brewing from the Leeds game. He looked very good at times. I thought Ayling did well, given he was playing at right centre-back as opposed to right-back. Hackney and Morris, can't have any complaints either. They were both brilliant once again. Sorry, I skipped Engel. Lucas Engel. It's the same sort of thing with Lucas Engel. There were times where he put some outstanding balls into the box, and I think he did get forward a little bit more today than he has done. But then there were also so many moments of pure frustration where his touch was heavy, he'd walk the ball out of play, and he'd make you want to tear your hair out. He's incredibly inconsistent and frustrating as Lucas Engel. And I think the competition we're bringing in, and apparently Neto Borges is coming in from Clermont in France, so we are getting a Brazilian left-back incoming. That will give Engel good competition. So it was a typical sort of frustrating afternoon for Engel. He did some really good stuff, some really bad stuff at times. As I was going to say, the midfield 2 were outstanding. Hayden Hackney was brilliant. Not only keeping the ball, retaining possession, but some of the runs he was making. And I think he's added this to his game quite well. He's picking up the ball and he's carrying it so well. He's driving us up the pitch 20, 30 yards and really, really creating opportunities for us. Him and Morris were brilliant. Morris, again, as he has done, Mr. Consistent. So good in midfield, so good at reading the game, making them interceptions. He was great once again. The big issues came with our forward players. Again, Isaiah Jones, I thought, the penalty, he won another penalty, which is good, but his final ball was really, really frustrating, especially first half. He just kept playing the same sort of low-through ball that were getting cut out every time. His crossing was very one-dimensional, very poor. Final ball wasn't great at all today. Azaz, I thought, did everything he could in terms of trying to carve open chances. They weren't always going to come off. A lot of discourse at the minute with Finn Azaz. A lot of people, I think, are just focusing on his negatives and how many passes don't come off opposed to how many he creates. But, you can only try and create chances. It's up to his teammates to make the right runs and finish the chances. He played Lath through the end of the first half. Lath couldn't convert the 1v1. I think we're a much better team with Finn Azaz in it, and he was picking up some unbelievable spaces in the first half. He just makes stuff happen, and he's a trier, and I'd rather have a player who will constantly try and make things happen than one that doesn't at all. And I think he, when he does get things right, he's incredibly effective and should be in the team. I thought he did all he could today. Got an assist for the corner, I guess, for Clark's goal. Bergsog was frustrating today. Wasn't his best game. I think I've sort of settled on Bergzorg now being an impact player. I think obviously McGree's injured at the minute. Hopefully we'll be back next week, so that's why Bergzorg's kind of playing at the minute. But to be fair, he's an impact player for me. He's a really good sub to bring on to impact the game later on. He definitely showed them negatives that we've come to hear and expect from Bergzorg today. You know, at times very selfish, tried to take on too many people, shot when he should have passed. I've lost count of how many shots he had blocked in this game. Didn't help us out really and made quite a few wrong decisions. Hopefully when McGree is back, he'll slot back in to the left-hand side. And then Latilath had one or two openings. What I will say is he was the usual nuisance that we love Latilath to be. But so many balls were getting put into the box so many times, and I just don't think he was gambling on them. His positioning wasn't right for quite a few of the balls that were coming in. Again, that's something that will come with the players understanding each other more and more. But yeah, it's not panic stations for Latilath, not yet, just yet. He's still incredibly dangerous. It just didn't quite fall for him today. And then the players who come on, obviously, Dan Barlas will come on. Had a very good impact on the game. I really like this new role that Barlas is having, where he's being brought on late in games and he's having a really good effect on him. I think it's benefiting him quite a lot. And he played a really good ball in behind. I don't recall it was two. It might have been Conway or was it Morris? And almost carved open a really good chance. Hamilton come on, played on the left this time, looked okay. And of course Conway come on. And what I will say about Tommy Conway, we all thought, and I think a lot of Bristol City fans thought this as well, when he signed, that he would be back up for Latilath. And they were going, he won't compete with Latilath, he'll be a bench player. But Carrick's playing him in the Chuba Akpom role from 2 seasons ago. You know, when we had Akpom and Archer, and Akpom would play off Archer in behind him and roam around behind Archer. We're seeing Conway do something similar, and I'm liking it. I'm liking Conway playing as a sort of tennis, a shadow striker, you know, behind Latilath. And he was really good, you know, really good home debut. And even in that number 10 position that Azaz plays, you know, he was connecting the play up really well. He was picking up good spaces. He was shifting the ball on really quickly, keeping the play moving, and he took his penalty really well. So I know Azaz is predominantly the player who plays behind Lath, but hey, if we want to stick Conway there and move Azaz onto the left, that could work. And then you've also got McGree on the left as well. So there's great options there across the front four. I think if we can find the best front four, there's definitely room, I think, for Azaz, Conway and Lath to be there. With then McGree somehow as well. I mean, you know, that's the quality and depth Boro have at the moment. But so far, Conway's been great. First goal, took it well. Really, really good cameo for him. But that's it. As I say, I'm not going to look at the table just yet. Yeah, first 3 games, incredibly frustrating on paper. 2 newly promoted sides. Only got 1 point from it when we should have really had 6. Pompey, though, I thought were really good. Naturally, I think Boro were going to just pile the pressure on second half, but Pompey, yeah, they look absolutely fine. They look like a really, really good team this season, and have no concerns for them. And I don't have any concerns for Boro. I'm going to be honest. I think we've got a really, really good squad. Iron out the individual errors, minimise the injuries. I'm more than confident we will match, if not better. We should better last season, which should mean playoffs at least. So it's too early to be too overreactive. It's too early to panic. Hopefully we go to Cardiff next weekend. And if we can win there, 7 points from the opening 4 games, you can't knock that. It's not far off 2 points a game. And suddenly we're looking a lot more positive going into the international break. And I know people will say, well, we might look back on Portsmouth and Derby as games we should have won. But there'll be games during the season that we'll nick and win that we'll look back and say, oh, God, we nicked that. So swings and roundabouts, you know, at this early stage in the season. A very frustrating game. In isolation, the signs still are good. I'm remaining optimistic about Boro. Let's just see how we get on. So, as always, there will be a Project Boro preview show ahead of the Cardiff game this week. We have also got a Cup game on Tuesday against Stoke. Like with the Leeds game, if anything notable happens, I might cover it. I won't be previewing it, but hopefully we can get through to the next round. I will be there, so I might get a few clips, might put something together from the Stoke game, we'll see. But I'll be back predominantly to review the Championship and, of course, look ahead to Cardiff. Fingers crossed we can get a win there. And then suddenly the first 4 games don't look all that bad. In fact, the way Boro have played, they actually look really positive. We are at the top of the charts for most stats. So I think we'll be okay. I think we'll get there. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether you're a Boro fan, Pompey fan, neutral fan, on your thoughts on Boro, Pompey and the season thus far. And as always, like this video on YouTube and subscribe for more. And if you're listening on the podcast providers, please do give me a like and a rating. It takes 2 seconds. Really, really appreciate that. But until next time, guys, do take care. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. This bloody football club, eh?